Greetings and salutations, hempsters. Welcome to another hemp episode of HempAware Radio, your go-to podcast for all things hemp, hosted by Tyler Hemp. Dive deep into the world of hemp with insights, trends, and interviews with industry experts, bringing you the latest from the ever-evolving hemp market. Discover the potential of hemp in sustainability, health, and beyond. Whether you're a hemp entrepreneur, enthusiast, educator, or just a curious hempster, join us on this journey to uncover the untapped opportunities of hemp and cannabis and discover what other hemp entrepreneurs are doing to succeed in the world of hemp. Learn more and tune in at hempaware.com, and let's explore how hemp can change the world for the better. Today on HempAware Radio, I'm thrilled to welcome Brandy Shapiro Babin, a visionary media executive and entrepreneur with a distinguished career that spans across open systems education, strategic consulting, and digital media. As one of the pioneers in open systems education, Brandy curated partnerships with industry giants such as Southwest Airlines, Data General in the aviation and technology sectors, respectively. She led a consulting company that provided strategic guidance to industry-specific organizations on a strategic level to right the ship, break the ship apart, or pivot the ship. Her clients included Lockheed Martin in aerospace, Motorola in telecommunications, and Boca Systems in printing solutions. Transitioning her focus to digital media, Brandy co-founded webmasterradio.fm, now rebranded as WMR.fm, and later cannabisradio.com, which we're going to get into more on this episode. And this is where she serves as the president of both of the networks. Her leadership in these ventures has solidified her reputation as a trailblazer in the podcasting industry and key player in the ever-evolving digital and plant medicine media landscapes. At cannabisradio.com, their commitment to influencing public opinion and establishing industry benchmarks is realized through their expert-driven, insightful content. And over a decade of innovation has allowed them to extend their focus from cannabis to encompass vital areas like plant medicines, psychedelics, mental health, wellness, and longevity. They aim to seamlessly connect businesses with consumers, offering educational content that not only informs, but also pioneers industry standards. And with more than 20 years in podcasting, their team at cannabisradio.com expertly curates programming to reflect the diverse interests of their listeners, providing unique insights, educational depth, and comprehensive market analysis. As the leading podcast network in these sectors, their mission is to educate and connect their audience with foremost global experts, nurturing influential voices within rapidly evolving industries. Their done-for-you podcast service takes care of all intricacies of podcast production, allowing hosts to simply arrive and excel. Their dedicated team manages every element from production and editing to super syndication, ensuring each episode is crafted to perfection. Their podcasts reach audiences in over 180 countries, reflecting their global impact. They are committed to partnering exclusively with top-tier companies that set the gold standard in their respective industries, focusing on robust standard operating procedures and delivering measurable, effective results for their clients. So before we dive into this insightful and exciting conversation with Brandy, I want to remind you to visit hempaware.com, discover how we can elevate your hemp business and help you drive more leads and sales so that we can transform the planet together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce and welcome Miss Brandy Shapiro Babin of cannabisradio.com. Thank you so much for being here.
This is so cool. Happy Hemp Tuesday, Tyler. Thank you for having me on. That was a profound, I'm exhausted listening to that introduction. That was profound. So thank you.
Yeah, well, now that our listeners have a good background and what you do as far as Cannabis Radio, we are going to get into more of the nitty-gritty details, but I would like to know sort of what led you to getting into the hemp and cannabis industry with all of your incredible background in media and systems development, working in all these incredible niches. You eventually got led into cannabis and hemp and creating cannabisradio.com. What was it that kind of shifted you into this whole world of cannabis and hemp?
So, first of all, my husband, who's also my partner, is a wake and bake kind of a guy. Like the plant just works for him. Where I'm Garfield on the ceiling, like it just keeps him focused and cool. He's like a cool, drink of liquid, if you will, whatever your preference is. But my mother and him actually bonded over smoking pot, and that blew me away. And that became something that was sort of between the two of them. It was this beautiful connection. When we moved to Florida, where she also lived, like she hooked him up with the first person that connected him with the plant down here. And then my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I was what they call a healthcare surrogate, which meant that above and beyond anything that was above and beyond her normal med regime, nobody could give her medicine without my approval. And so they try to put her on medication like Seroquel, who's manufactured by AstraZeneca, who unfortunately, I believe, knew full well, prescribing it off label to Alzheimer and dementia patients, the big side effect was death, right? I think they got like a $400 million slap on the hand. So let's just say, allegedly, we tried to create an environment for my mother where she had dignity and quality of life and have her do fun activities, even if she couldn't fully connect with everything that she was doing. So if I took you out to lunch with us, she'd either be like catatonic or word salad. I'd say, hey, mommy, this is my friend Tyler. And she'd either not have clarity in her eyes or she'd look at you and say, green baby heads. If I wrangled from somebody a joint or a pipe and took her outside and she took a couple of hits off of, this was pre any kind of legislation, allegedly, it was like plugging her back in for 45 minutes. She would come back in and she'd say, wow, Tyler, all the great things you do in hemp, your awesome commitment to the community. I want to hear more about this, sweetheart. However, we couldn't do this on a consistent basis because had we been caught, I would have gone to jail. She would have gone to a psych ward. No one would have benefited. So we really started Cannabis Radio to connect people with the right information so nobody went down the horrible path that we went down. Because we believe deeply information's power, but the wrong information is horribly debilitating.
Wow. That's so true. So what an inspiring story. Your mom was very much helped by this plant, but being that it wasn't legal, you couldn't risk the continued use. And so that inspired you to get the truth out to others.
Yes. And because we have a background in business, not, we want to educate consumers and educate them from people that had the correct information, but also we're doing it for the right reasons and from a passionate perspective. But we also understand how to help companies grow. So, Cannabis Radio really focuses on both the B2B and B2C marketplaces.
Beautiful. So cannabisradio.com is not only a place where you guys showcase many of the top tier popular hemp and cannabis podcasts, but you guys have a done for you service that helps anyone that wants to do their own podcast to create the content, edit the content, come up with the content, find the interviewees to be on their shows, and syndicate their content out to the world.
So the only person we've allowed on our platform that of content that we don't produce is yours. So everything on Cannabis Radio is 100% produced by us.
Wonderful. So as far as some of the, I guess, strategy that you use, and to get right into the meat of this, because this is a hemp-entrepreneurial podcast, we'd love to provide valuable content to help businesses grow just like you guys do. What's like the foundational strategy that you guys use when you're executing your services for these podcasts?
So I think for us, we try to understand as much as possible about a company, understand what their goals and objectives are for the next 12 to 18 months. And then, of course, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. And then we help them lean into their strengths. And then where we can, we help them compensate for some of their weaknesses. Right? Because at the end of the day, nobody can be all things to all people.
Yes. Yep. If you try to market to everybody, you end up marketing to nobody.
And then there's no value there. Right. And based off of the outcomes that they.
Right. So you get to understand the business. You understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and then based on what they're good at, you cater the content that they create around their expertise and focus on who they're serving so that that is valuable content for their audience.
Yes, for the most part. For the most part, I think sometimes, we'll work with people when they tell us that they've got specific goals and objectives, but based off of everything they've shared, they're not on maybe the quickest path to get them there. So we might pivot a little bit in their orientation, but yeah, 100% what you said.
Cool. So over the years that you've been doing this for cannabis and hemp companies, creating quality podcast content and syndicating it for them, helping them get clear about their messaging and create shortcuts to allow them to reach their goals and objectives, what have you found are some of the most difficult realities in being a hemp entrepreneur or marketing hemp products? And how do you help them either prevent these challenges or overcome them?
Wow, there's so much. Where would you like me to focus?
Yeah, I mean, what would you say is kind of the most common themes that most hemp entrepreneurs, hemp companies encounter? Obviously, there's the whole paid ads debacle and some companies just being shadow banned or outright banned from platforms. There's them not understanding how to market, how to create messaging, the SEO side of things, digital marketing, really whatever you feel like you encounter the most as far as difficulties and how you're helping them overcome these challenges.
So you talked about a bunch of stuff. So I find, so most companies, right, they're either product driven or they're marketing driven, right? They're either leaning heavy on the science part of things or they're leaning heavy on the marketing side of things. I think that there's a group of companies, let's say in hemp, who have sort of broken that glass ceiling where they've amassed enough market share, they've got enough employees, they've got a real marketing department, they brought their PR in-house, and they're really running like a finely tuned machine. But I mean, look, it's the same thing. You've got issues with, like you said, sometimes you can use Google AdWords, sometimes you can't. Now you're seeing programmatic as being more acceptable of hemp, which I think is phenomenal, right? Why not find yourself where people are looking already and there are websites that are, please find me on Vogue or find me on CNN, places that are incredibly credible. So now your credibility is reinforced. So I think that part's really positive. I think we're going to see a lot of places opening up to allowing hemp and cannabis companies to market a little bit easier. But I think the hardest part is, to be honest with you, a lot of companies don't pay attention to what they're marketing versus other people in their market sector are doing. Right.
So not having a good understanding of the competitive marketplace, the landscape.
Right. Like I think when you go, I tell everybody, when you go to name your company, it needs to be something that you feel good waking up and being like, yeah, this is my company and this is the name and I feel good about it. But at the same time, you want to make sure that there's not another company that can cause confusion that has a similar name to yours, right? Because you want to own your own persona, if you will. And I have a lot of respect for companies that pick one or two specific things that they're really good at and focusing on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Wana does a phenomenal job with edibles. They're an edible company. They're not an edible patch, vape, drink. Do you see what I'm saying? And it allows them to enter the market, gain a level of trust and credibility for doing one specific thing. And then if you want to add on from there, that's awesome. But I feel like there's a lot of companies that launch with like 1,000 different things. So you're confusing consumers. You don't have a best of breed product that's your real hook, so to speak. So I think it's some of the semantic things like that. But I mean, we've been super lucky. We've dealt with companies that don't know how to market themselves, but they've had open ears and open hearts, and companies that are super, super dialed in.
That's crucial. I think you're absolutely right. And I call it the curse of the hemp-entrepreneur is there's too many hemp opportunities. There's once you learn that hemp can be turned into 25,000 different things as an entrepreneur, as a thinker and visionary, which most hemp entrepreneurs are, they end up wanting to do everything all at once. And just like the concept of trying to market to everybody, you end up marketing to nobody. It's the same thing that you just described. If you try creating all these different products at once or solutions, you end up not being able to do any of them well. And so
Well,
having that focus, picking one lane, one product, or one category and doing that really, really well, getting acknowledgement, getting the revenue to then expand into other avenues is a really solid approach.
I mean, wise words. And for me, it's all, ABT, always be testing. So you can't test when you have, when you're a smaller company just starting out who's offering like someone called me last week and I thought this was like, and they're telling me, oh, we've got pet food and pet treats and we've got creams for the face and we've got like, they had a product for every sector. And
Mm-hmm.
I very respectfully said, as a woman, I don't think I'd buy my face cream from a company that's making dog treats unless
Mm-hmm.
you can give me some like white paper or scientific proof that this one molecule that you're using over here, this one ingredient makes it this like where I wouldn't feel bad about myself that I was using. Yeah, so I think you should find a product or a lane, as you would say, that you feel passionate about. Start testing first of all, please do some market research, right?
Mm-hmm.
What other kind of products in this sector are out there? What are some of the special ingredients that people use that are not hemp and cannabis, so to speak, right? Like skincare, for example, whether you're a Chanel, La Prairie, whomever, everybody has their like one ingredient that differentiates them from all the other cosmetics companies. So I just think it's important to not just look at cannabis and hemp, because I think we're finally getting to a point of like more normalization. People are just I'm looking for a great cosmetic line. I'm looking for a great pain relief. I'm looking for something that's going to give me a great buzz, something that's going to help me maybe dull my depression, chill out my anxiety. And you should look through all the sectors that are marketing stuff like this, understand what that competitive landscape is, and then figure out how you want to be seen in the world. And then start building your outbound marketing to reflect that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your ethos of your company. Who are you? And I'm big into persona marketing. So then once you understand, like if it's a pain pill, like, you're giving someone a pain patch or a pain vape or whatever it is, who are all the different types of people that would be able to utilize this product, right? And persona marketing in like the most dumbed down approach, I guess, would be, so Brandy's a middle-aged woman who has spent 15 years with pain. She's been on all kinds of insets and blah, blah, blah. But Brandy wants a homeopathic approach, right? So then you would create a silo in your marketing that reached out to that, right? Darren is a
Mm-hmm.
weekend warrior. He loves going on his motorcycle and he loves going to the gym only on the weekend. He does Ironman. But during the week, he sits behind a desk and he's got horrible joint pain, right? And there's a way of speaking to him differently than how you would speak to Brandy or how you would speak to. So you create these kind of personas, right? Like a profile of the kind of people to channel market to.
Absolutely. Yeah, often referred to as a customer avatar or an ideal target market,
Yep.
really clarifying their identity, their struggles, their pains, their, as we refer to in marketing, their demographics, their psychographics, their geographics, their behavioristic variables, the other brands that they consume, the languaging that they use. So like you said, to kind of reiterate, which segues into my next question, which is what have you found to be the most effective ways of marketing your business and also for your clients' businesses? And you already touched upon several things that I'll kind of repeat here. But number one, you said always be testing. So putting out different messages, maybe different offers, different products, and seeing how the market responds, doing market research, figuring out what the competitive landscape looks like, what products are currently on the market, what ingredients are they using, and then getting clear about how you are unique and different from the other options on the market, whether it's a new ingredient or maybe you're catering to a very specific group of people that you're solving a problem for. And then having that clear angle, that marketing angle, that messaging angle compared to the others in that same marketplace to differentiate yourself. And then the final thing I think you covered was this idea of creating a customer persona and really getting to understand who they are, how they think, how they feel, what habits they have, where they live. Just as much as you can learn about your target market, the more you're going to be able to speak their language and ultimately get them to take action and purchase your products on an ongoing basis, right?
Well, and that's the thing, right? You want to approach people, A, where they live, and B, you want to speak to them. When I say speak, I mean that, quote unquote, you want to be able to connect with them in a tone that resonates with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if someone's marketing to me, I don't want to hear about the trendiest stuff out there. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know that it is science-based, it's efficacious, and it's safe. And I'd like to see it like a high touch, high value, right? That's what's going to get me to purchase your product. But maybe Susie, who's 23, she wants to be a part of like whatever the cool trending thing is. So, but she's an important market, right? Everybody's important. You just have to speak to them in a way that's going to get them to connect specifically with your brand.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you only have to speak to that one person. You can have multiple personas, but it is important that you also have multiple campaigns that are targeting those specific people so
But
that
that's
you're
it. Yes,
yeah.
you should know. I have 7 personas, right? Here's my
Mm-hmm.
target audience. Let's say it's women 25 to 75. Okay. And of those women 25 to 75, what are the groups of, we're looking at women that are athletic. We're looking at women that are busy, busy career women, women that are stay-at-home moms, women that are, right? And you start breaking down all of all of these categories so that you understand all the possible combinations of who your customer could be. And then, like you said, you start dialing in your marketing so that you reach out not just to one silo, to all of the silos, but they all
Mm-hmm.
blend back into the overarching, consistent marketing rhetoric of your organization.
Right. Mm-hmm. You're just reframing it for each one of these markets.
Exactly. It's like a movie trailer, right? Like usually there's 4 or 5 movie trailers. You could watch one movie trailer and be like, oh, that sucks. I don't want to watch that. But then I see one that's different from what you saw. You and I are friends and like, oh my God, this movie's awesome. And you're like, it looked like it sucked. I send you that trailer. You're like, looks like a totally different movie because
Mm-hmm.
that was made to get your and my attention. They didn't test
Exactly.
properly and they were sending the wrong trailer to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's often been referred to as dog whistle copy, like having very specific words that speak to a very specific person to draw them in and repel the others. So it's a good idea to have these multiple personas built out, which is a crucial step in the entire marketing strategy that we do and that you guys do at Cannabis Radio. And I do want to get into your actual service here in just a moment, but before we do, I'm curious, where do you see the cannabis industry and the overall hemp industry? Because they're kind of two different industries.
Yes, they are.
Where do you see, we can start with the cannabis industry, like in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see the biggest opportunities that maybe existing brands could take advantage of or new companies that are just coming onto the market?
Well, I'm hoping that the election in November is going to inspire, the current administration. I mean, I know they're talking about, so it's interesting. I'm hearing about the rescheduling. It could be as quick as 2 months or as long as 3 years. It would be awesome if they just opened the whole market up, everyone's adult use, then we can get the right MCC codes. People could use credit card processing because that's, you know, I without having credit card processing, I just think it puts people in so much danger, if you will. Companies are still fighting with that 280E. And it would also, I think people would feel more comfortable spending more money because you're not just putting your hand into your own wallet or your own bank account. Right now you can pay that out over time, which makes things easier. So I think depending upon what the powers that be do, I think it has a interesting to see which direction it goes in, if you will. I think
Mm-hmm.
as far as hemp goes, it's very interesting. So on one hand, I don't know why the government's smart, why they didn't think there's hundreds of cannabinoids. We're only using a few, that there aren't some brilliant people out there that would develop these cannabinoids and then market them through a loophole and do exactly what they said that nobody wanted to do, which is market it to kids and have it available at the corner store and the smoke shops and stuff. So I do not like, so on one hand, I live in Florida. So the guys who originally bought the licenses in cannabis, it was like 50 to $100 million just for the paper. It's vertically integrated here, which means that they all had to not just pay for the paper, right? But now they have to pay for all of the cultivation, the processing, the dispensaries. I mean, it's nice. It's unlimited dispensaries down here. And I think a hemp license is $600. The program in Florida has not opened up enough. So Florida's a little impotent, to be honest with you. And now you've got, I mean, you walk into a dispensary and maybe there's 9-10 products, but then you walk into a smoke shop and it's a potpourri of like 100 different brands and products and stuff. So I love hemp. And I think you can get the same experience with hemp that you can with cannabis in many ways. I'm a compliance person. I want to know that what I'm putting in my body or anybody that I know they're putting in their body is safe. That there's no mold, there's no pesticides, there's no pairing of products that shouldn't be together because it's going to give you crazy contraindications or anything. So I think we kind of need to get a handle on some of the hemp companies that are out there. I think there's some tremendous companies that are doing exciting, wonderful, amazing things with hemp. I love some of the nanotechnology, I think is off the scale. You're seeing a massive emergence right now with beverages. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. I'm finding it very interesting. You're getting, because there's a big push. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of older Americans, realize like they drank too much booze for too long, right? And in the words of my very dear belated friend, Steve Fox, marijuana is safer than alcohol. So I think there's a lot of people that don't want to drink booze, but they do want something that's going to help them decompress at the end of the day, and they still want that booze-like experience. So we've had the beautiful ability to sample some great new companies that have some fabulous drinks. There's even one that do like rum and cokes with hemp and gin and tonic, and it really like, oh my God, you really think you're drinking it, except you're not harming your liver. And, you could have 2 or 3 of them and you just feel warm and blissy instead of like out of control drunk. So I feel like we're seeing a lot of innovation in the beverage space right now.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've even seen CBD waters starting to get exposure and people getting interested in CBD water, which is curious. But some of these other unique products would probably do a lot better, just being that they're replacing other more toxic products, like you say, just typical booze that it would be able to replace. So doing that would create a healthier culture.
Which I think, I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities in both spaces. And I think there's a lot of brilliant minds that are coming into the industries. And I think when you start seeing innovation, I think people start leaning in and bringing that.
For sure. So to kind of shift gears and dive a little deeper into how cannabis radio works, and cannabisradio.com is where people can reach out to you, discover more about your services and how you guys help build out hemp and cannabis podcasts. But can you give us like a 1, 2, 3 step process of what it looks like when a company comes to you and says, hey, I've got an idea, I want to do a cannabis or hemp podcast? What does that process look like, kind of start to finish? And then I realize it's an ongoing service. So how does that play out?
Oh God, I hope well. So what we do is we assign everybody a producer. We do a big kickoff call. There's usually a big group of people on the call. And we do a kickoff call to understand, like I said earlier, as much as we can about a company's business, goals and objectives for that business, let's say for the next 12 to 18 months, and then goals and objectives for the show. And based off of that is how we kind of architect it. You don't have to use all the services that we offer. You can just lean into the ones that you want us to. So we'll workshop a name for the show if the name of the company is not intuitive, and then it would be sponsored by or powered by, for example. And so we do all of the creative development, the icon that's on their site, our site, all the podcast portals. We're pretty much syndicated, super syndicated everywhere people consume media. And we have a dashboard for each client. So that's a place where we house everybody's approvals and everybody's assets. It's theirs. It's open 24/7. And when any new information is there, if we need something from them, they get in their preference an email or a text letting them know. The shows don't need to be interview driven, but if they want it to be interview driven, we create these like little demographic silos based off of the outcomes they want. So every week there'll be a bunch of people on their dashboard and they go, oh, I want this person. I don't want that person. Their producer will prep the guests, prep the host, will understand what they feel comfortable in prepping. Maybe it's recent articles on a guest. Maybe it's a bio or past interviews that they've done or what have you. So they get a nice care package. Guests and hosts can be located anywhere in the world. We remote video people, and then they've got a producer with them the entire way, guiding them through the whole process. We take everything offline and we edit it. So we keep the authenticity, cut out the fat. Like at the end of the day, it's the end of the day. We don't care if people use profanity, but a lot of times people don't want to. And then, where sometimes people have like a profound conversation, but it's like a pinball all over the place. So the editing staff will go in and sort of reorient it for stickiness and cohesiveness. We give a media player to our client, that auto-populates with content as it occurs. It's also lightly optimized for the search engines. And it's kind of a rinse, wash, and repeat.
Very cool. So on average, how often would you say most of your podcasters within your network are putting out content?
So our research shows, after doing it for so many years, the sweet spot is a half an hour once weekly. And for us, some people love like, hey, every week at this time, I'm doing my show. And then, for other people, they take a block of recording time at the beginning and end of every month. They lay down a few shows in one seating, and then, we edit and drip the content out for them.
Gotcha. So a 30-minute show is kind of the sweet spot in terms of the length, and once a week is kind of the cadence that you guys find is the most effective.
Yes.
Cool. And then in terms of where people can apply or get a hold of you, have a discovery call of sorts, I'll put a link in the description of this show and on our website where they can come visit you guys and learn more about the process. But is there anything else that you would like to share as far as the benefits, the value, kind of how this fits into an overall marketing strategy for hemp and cannabis businesses?
So, they get free press releases because we're partnered with the founder of PR Web on his new project, which is newsworthy.ai. So at the end of the day, I think anybody can produce a podcast. They really can, right? But we find that companies that are really out there trying to get a competitive edge, there's so many things to do to continue to move your company forward. It's easier to shepherd people through the process. They get press releases. We do co-promotions. We make sure that there's a co-pro with guests that come on. And then I always say, we like to think of ourselves as a family, hopefully the one you choose, not always the one you were born to. So we hook people up with marketing agencies, with payment processing, whatever it is that they need to be their best sense of self, because something we pride ourselves in is being connected to people that will also deliver the best services for the most fair cost with the strongest outcomes.
Wonderful. Yeah, so you're there to support them in splintering out into whatever aspect of the market they need help in. And what's great about podcasting is that it positions your brand as an expert in the market, as an authority. And it allows you to lead with education and lead with value. People get to know you, they get to learn things about you, about your services, your products, and helps you build trust. So I think it's a really crucial aspect of any business, of course, hemp businesses or cannabis businesses, but there's ancillary
and build
benefits.
Community, right? And build community, because there's so much noise. There's so many products. There's so many services out there. How do you differentiate yourself? And I think, hosting a podcast, it brings your company to life in a way that, we're so computer bound, and what pops up in our social media and the share of everything that goes on that screen. So we believe deeply in what we do. Plus, people get to own their own words. They get to own their own dogma, their own ethos for their company, which I think is incredibly important. And community build, right?
Mhm.
When you support people because you're contributing to their life, right? Like, let's go back. You're a hemp company that has a pain reliever, right? They've got, creams and vapes and stuff for pain. And you're bringing on doctors to talk about different chronic conditions. And you're talking about all the different ways that you can utilize this to benefit people's lives. You're helping people. You're connecting them with
Mhm.
information that they'd have to go through so much in order to find it. But every week, I can count on coming to your show and consistently getting content that is enriching my life. So, no, you've now turned me into a brand evangelist for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a podcast is one of the foundational tools for marketing any business. And it allows you to take that content, like you said, build the community, attract your tribe, but then you can take that same podcast and splinter it out into multiple channels and more content. So you can send an email, you can create a blog post, you can break it down into smaller chunks and send that on social media. Like it's just a really great way to have consistent, steady content flowing through your business to add more value to your
Well,
marketplace.
you made a really great point. So, with one podcast, because we do video as well, 100%, you're taking a half an hour's worth of content and it can be amplified in 8,000 different ways, because you can make audiograms and the blogs and the press releases and posts and commercials. And especially, I find that most hemp companies and cannabis companies, when they get $5 in their pocket, the first thing they do is hire a PR firm, which is awesome. Thing is, it's difficult in today's climate to get a ton of coverage on cannabis and hemp companies because the story's
Mhm.
just not there, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Yeah,
And the story should not be about cannabis and hemp, to be honest with you. The story should be it's a really good pain reliever, right?
how it
It's a really
transforms somebody's life.
somebody's life. So when you have a podcast and you've got a PR company that's out pitching you, and now there's a couple of things. One is you can dovetail your editorial calendar with what the PR firm's doing. It makes life a hell of a lot, right? It dovetails a lot more strongly. But also it makes the practitioner's job easier because now they can showcase you speak well. You're solving a problem for people that these journalists can now trust on getting somebody who understands and has knowledge around a
Mhm.
specific topic because they can dip in and they can listen to your podcast and see that you're authoritative. So I think there's
Exactly.
a ton of different ways to do it. But I think for us, what's really important on cannabis radio is we're not trying to normalize. We just normalize,
Mhm. That's great.
right? So we just happen to. People, I love the fact that people listen to us that are hardcore hempsters and hardcore like cannabis people. But then there's so many people from every kind of demo that are dipping in because they have mental health issues. They're having stress. They're having pain. They're wanting to have fun. They don't want to use alcohol. And they're finding
Mhm.
these podcasts and they're being exposed to a whole new world out there. And so are these brands.
Exactly. Well, you've provided a really great resource and service for this community and market. And I would like to encourage anybody that's considering doing a podcast, give a call over to Brandy, go to the website, cannabisradio.com. Is there anywhere else that people could reach out to you? Where else can they find you?
You are so kind. 1-800. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So for more than you can reach out to me at Brandy with a Y at cannabisradio.com. I have to like we have the best team of people. Everybody's got a beautiful background in business and media and like completely integrity filled. Everybody's like 20 times smarter than me. So I'm incredibly blessed. Our clients are incredibly blessed. And I'm feeling incredibly blessed that I get to be here with you today, Tyler, because you're amazing.
Oh, well, it takes one to know one. So I appreciate that. And one last question I have is more on a philosophical level. And that is, let's imagine you were standing on a podium talking to every single human being on the planet, and you could share one message with them about this plant, what would you want them to know?
Wow. You know, you didn't put that in the list this time.
I wanted to surprise you.
No, there's so much to say. I think if you look back in history, we have been using this plant for thousands of years. Get over yourself. Lean into things that are going to be safe and efficacious for you. Don't let someone else's drama over a plant not allow you to live your best sense of self. Because people are always going to have an opinion, but they're always going to do what's right for them. So do what's right for you.
Amen. That's so well said. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks for tuning in. This is Tyler Hemp with HempAware Radio. Check us out, hempaware.com. If you want to hear any particular content on the show or have us invite any new guests, just send us an email, support@hempaware.com. And as a final reminder, go to cannabisradio.com if you want to get yourself an exceptionally well-developed podcast and get it out to the world. Thanks again, Brandy. I appreciate you being on the show.
This is awesome and a pleasure. Thank you, Tyler. Wishing you and all of your Hempy Awesome listeners a phenomenal rest of your week.